We are back with Erika Brown. She is the publisher and editor of the Manchester Cricket. We check in with Erika once a week to find out all the good things happening by the sea. How are you, Erika?
I'm doing great. It's the favorite part of my week.
that's a little frightening.
No,
but claim it.
Well, there was a big week in Manchester and Essex. We want to start off talking about the peaceful protests.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Over 300 people attended the protest that was organized by 3 pretty amazing young students in Gloucester, and everyone gathered Monday evening at the Gloucester Traffic Circle. It's the Grant Circle, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Lot of kids from Essex and Manchester came with their families and their friends, and it was a really lovely moment. Chris Straub covered it for us and shot some amazing photographs that just really captured the power of the event. And we ran it in this week's. It's our lead story, actually. We talked about it internally about whether or not that was the right thing to lead with for the Manchester Cricket. That's a lot of what we do is we try to figure out what's appropriate today for a 130-year-old newspaper that has a tradition of not overreaching in terms of trying to take on, big national news or big controversies. So translating that into today sometimes can be a little bit of a challenge for us. To be honest with you. And this one posed that same challenge. And it's one of the things that made me very happy we're a weekly and not a daily, because we have time to kind of think and then synthesize and then act. And we made it our lead story. And the reason why we did was because there were a lot of local kids in our readership who participate in it, number one. Number two, it was a very large gathering. It wasn't just sort of an outlier that we decided to co-opt and make into our lead story. The third thing is it's very important to show that the community, not just young people, but the whole community is demonstrating support for something important, not demonstrating to say we have this horrific issue. It's showing solidarity and support for something that is so profoundly important. And then the other thing is we had the local tie-in with Ed Connolly and Senator Tarr showed up along with the mayor of Gloucester, of course, Safatia. But Ed Connolly was until last year our chief of police, and so to see him sort of take the knee with everyone else and then stay in silence for 8 minutes and 46 seconds, I believe it is, was also good. And then Todd Fitzgerald put out a statement as well to say that and that's our chief of police in Manchester, to say this: we're vigilant with training. This is really important, and we stand with you. So it was really very important. I think it was a really monumentous moment for all of Cape Ann, to stand with the rest of the country is really what's going on. I mean, what a difference, what a difference a week makes. I feel like I say that to you guys pretty regularly because we've been connecting during these extraordinary times. But last week, we spent a good amount of time talking about the fact that Manchester was the only town that had an in-person celebration and remembrance for the fallen veterans, fallen soldiers in wars, and for Memorial Day, and about, was it okay to have something in person, an in-person physical event? And then, we said, yeah, they did it with care, etc. Here we are a week later, and 300 spontaneously gathered people with elected officials, by the way. So even though it wasn't an officially, hosted event, it was spontaneous but planned, and we had our leaders there with them side by side, and everyone wearing masks, but it was a gathering and it was much bigger than anything for Memorial Day, that's for sure.
That's a really good point. We spoke to Taylor Bradford of the House of Times yesterday, and she remarked or commented on the difference between this community gathering and those around the nation, in that it was completely a unified voice. There were zero elements of discontent or dissent or, God forbid, violence and looting, right? It was really a strong statement in a positive way. And that really says a lot for our community.
Yes, very much so. And what was also interesting to me, we'll be thinking about this and looking at this for a very long time as a nation. But, you know, this is the time when you see young millennials and Generation Z, which is really who were there. This is sort of the millennials were the first generation that was bigger than the baby boomers. And the baby boomers are mostly associated with essentially political action and change through the 60s, anti-war. And what's interesting is this country changes either because massive amounts of people either fall in line together and do the right thing. That's the greatest generation, right? They don't question, they just do, and they do it quietly and they do it beautifully. And they made great change happen, and they made a great nation. You also have, you know, great dissent, you know, the ability in a democracy to speak out and to say, we don't agree, we're not going to fall in line. And what's interesting is the baby boomers, you know, started that, and I'm not going to make a political statement at all because I'm just going to talk statistics. But the baby boom generation was the biggest until the millennials, right? They're very similar in their kind of their idealism and their ideals are the same. Although it's interesting to note that the boomers are really statistically the reason why our president has been elected, which is a very interesting thing that historians will look into, not me. But it's, and just as an objective person, that's an interesting thing. But the millennials have always showed up through social media. And here's my point. Here they were in person actually doing something. And I found it very interesting that this was going on at the same time that there's an election happening in Manchester and Essex and in all our towns. And the real plight that small towns have had across the country, but particularly here, I watch it all the time, and you probably do too, is who steps up and actually does something. They volunteer, they show up, they go to the meetings, they make things happen, and they do the business of our community week in and week out. Everyone is waiting to see if those younger kids will engage. And I think that this week we saw that they are, and they're engaging with their parents and with their friends, with their leaders. And I thought that was really nice. And my guess is that's exactly what Taylor Bradford was talking about. But, you know, it's like that. It was really nice to see it peaceful and productive.
Well, Erika, now that the sun has peeked out from behind the clouds, you look like a half and half cookie. With a
I'll push
dodge the sun rays here.
There, how's that?
Well, so very well said. And now the other big point this week locally is the next phase of reopening. So what have you come across with that?
Yeah, we're locally, and I don't know if they're calling this in other towns, but they're calling it like 2.5, phase 2.5. So we're going into our 2.5, and that's going to include sort of widening out sort of some of the beaches and some of the parks, and I think that that's great. I think today, as a matter of fact, today is Thursday, and I believe the trustees have opened up Coolidge Reservation, which is local here in Manchester. It's a very, very large park right on the water. It's got a lot of space, and it's a fantastic option for people who want to get outside. So that's happening. And then now we're going to start the process of measured outdoor seating for restaurants. Essex, I know, they grappled with that a lot in Monday's BOS meeting. They're really spending a lot of time talking about that. I'm going to connect and feature an interview with Erin Kirchner from the Board of Health Administrator over in Essex, because Essex is so restaurant forward, right? We've talked about that before. And so they really want to support the businesses and restaurants specifically. And I think that that's an important thing to talk about. They were also talking about Centennial Park and the like over there. And back over in Manchester, we're now going to have a measured opening of retail stores. And that's going to be fantastic. But the truth is, you know, stores, they're going to have to live their entire season, right, in some sort of a measured fashion, a half fashion. Everybody knows that now. We're not going to get back to what it was in the last couple of years. And I think that's going to drive a lot of operational changes for local retailers. And what I think they're going to start doing is, or they're going to have to start doing this, is it's almost like local retailers are going to change their business model, where they're going to actually become more e-commerce oriented, even though they're just a local round the corner store. I'm really looking forward to seeing that as well. And there might be some measured events over the season too, which I think is going to be really nice in terms of the opening. Cheryl Marshall is talking about having concerts at the park.
Wow.
Yeah. Concerts at the park, which are usually a massive draw down at Masconomo Park, but they're going to have to do it in a measured fashion. But she's starting to look at that. So I'll be really interested in tracking that.
I think the outdoors is going to be everybody's friend this summer.
Thank God.
Yeah. Right? Whether it's entertainment or retail or restaurants.
Yeah. Well, personally, for myself, the few times that we've gotten together with some, one or two friends, it's been outside, and I think everyone's doing the same exact thing.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and then there's also some activity in Essex with the Board of Selectmen, right?
Yeah, we have a nice piece this week. Last week, I interviewed the two residents who are running for Board of Selectmen. There's one seat. Andrew Spinney is stepping down after many, many years of incredible service to the town, which I doubt very highly he's done. Thank God. He's such a quiet, reassuring but firm presence on the Board of Selectmen. He's stepping down, and two people are running for his seat. As a matter of fact, between Manchester and Essex, it's the only contested seat. It's Peter Hoare and Guy Bradford. Guy Bradford is on the Finance Committee, has been since 2018. Both of them, and then Peter Hoare has also been very involved as well. He has been, I believe, for the last 6 or 8 years, volunteer fireman and EMT so both of them know the community in completely different ways. They both have really, really deep experience in the corporate world. One as an entrepreneur, Peter Hoare founded and then became the chief operating officer of a very successful and oversaw a lot of growth ambulance company out of Boston. I think when he took over, it was like 6 ambulances and 30 EMTs, and when he left, it was 100 ambulances and 600 employees. So it was, so the real thing, right? And he runs a doggy daycare, over in Essex. And Guy Bradford is retired from a stellar career at American Eagle Outfitters. So both of them both have a lot of things in common, but they have their own take on things. And they both moved to town about the same time, about 8 years ago or so. So they're both kind of moved to town and became real passionate about the community, which is really nice. And for what it's worth, I think the Board of Selectmen will be strengthened no matter who wins. So it'll be great. They both care about money too, and they both bring that kind of financial rigor to their perspective. Guy Bradford is a little more, Finance Committee. And Peter Hoare is more categorical. He says, listen, why don't we think creatively about renegotiating things with the Manchester Essex Regional School District, such as busing contracts, things like that. And he really cares about housing. They both really care about housing. And then Peter Hoare is really tuned into the Council on Aging. And so much of what they care about, how they see, is because of how they are in the town. Like Peter Hoare is constantly going to Tobacco Terrace. So he knows sort of the seniors in town and what they're actually dealing with. And he does it because he's in an ambulance or he's with the fire department.
Right.
Yeah.
When is the date on that again, Erika, for that?
June 22nd.
June 22nd. Okay, cool. All right. I'm sure you'll keep us posted on that. Another great week of updates. And it's starting to feel like summer for the first time here. So I hope you get to go out and enjoy, no matter what park you are in Manchester or Essex. And happy reopening, everyone, if you finally get to participate in phase 2.5. So Erika Brown of the Manchester Cricket, thanks a lot. We will talk to you next week.
Bye, guys.